In fact, I was listening to a mastermind of really smart people, maybe including Matt and Scott, and we were talking about some platforms that are really great right now, including YouTube video bumper ads where they can't skip the ads. So you have that captive audience.
Welcome to the Business Builder Throwdown.
That's why people call me. They're like, what do I do?
First of all, how are you reading my mind?
With your hosts, Holly Jean Jackson and Matt Rouse. And moderator and referee, D. Scott Smith.
Hey, all right, so here we are. Look, we are ready for the throwdown. All we need is a big crowd, but we got a big crowd because everyone's out there cheering for their favorite. So is it going to be the champion, and I'm saying the champion at the moment, Matt the Mauler Rouse, or is it going to be Holly Mean Jean Jackson?
I'm so mean.
I like it.
We're going to talk about organic content and paid advertising. But let's start with some introductions, and let's go to Matt first. Tell us who you are and what is going on.
Matt the Mauler Rouse. I am a managing partner of Hook SEO Digital Marketing and Hook Digital Marketing Canada. I am the host of the Digital Marketing Masters podcast. I'm also the host of the Motivational Success podcast and author of Crush SEO, and author of Start Saying Yes, and the author of Flattening the Hamster Wheel. And various other publications.
And yeah. And Matt the Mauler, of course, he's crushing the wheel and crushing SEO, flattening the wheel. Awesome.
Taking
Holly,
the side of content.
You're on the side of content. You're on the side of organic content. Well, we'll see. We'll see if you can hold your own against Holly Mean Jean Jackson. All right, Holly.
All right. My name's Holly Jackson. I'm a holistic business coach. That means that I help with entrepreneurs and small business owners start, scale, or build their business. I'm also the host of the Inspiration Contagion podcast, where I interview transformational leaderships who share inspiration how they've overcome a lot of obstacles. So also on the side of content, but taking a different side today in terms of advertising.
We're going to find out which is the right strategy to follow. Do we want to follow organic content, or do we want to write those checks to those big entities out there, Google and Facebook? So, and there's some other players out there. So I'll be interested to see what comes up. So I am Scott Smith, motivational listener, and my passion is around the solo entrepreneur, freelance professional, and small business owner. My goal is to help you become overwhelmed with referrals from your business network. Well, we should probably have Matt go first, because organic came before paid.
Now, you might want to argue that paid came before organic, since, advertising on places like radio and television were around before spots like Google and social media. However, the printing press came first. So if you want to go all the way back.
All right. So
and talking about the printing press, I'm going to go back to the printing press.
All right. He's been pushed back into the Stone Age.
Why? So when the printing press first came to take a message and deliver it to many people without having to hand write every single note, right? And you take that forward to the new technology now, it's the same thing. You can create content at a larger scale, but it's still at scale, just like the printing press allowed you to print at scale. Places like your website, social media channels, other sites for blogging, microblogging, stuff like that, video through places like YouTube, they allow you to reach a larger audience at a scale that no one in the history of humankind has been able to reach. Every single day is bigger than the day before. Statistically, there's more people online every day. So there is unlimited reach with organic content. And if you're good at it and you have some good strategy behind it, you can do it cost effectively. And I'm not going to say free, because people mix up free as being advertising because you have to use your credit card or write a check to someone. They say that's paid and organic is free. But the cost of organic is time.
We'll take that as a good opening statement in favor of organic content. So Matt the Mauler, thank you for that. Let's move over to Holly Mean Gene Jackson and talk about paid advertising.
Oh, I can't even imagine myself as mean. But anyways, all right. So paid advertising is really great if, one, you know who your client is and you know them in great detail, because you don't want to spend money if you don't really know where your client's hanging out. Two, if you actually have a scalable product or service, paid advertising is great. The worst thing you could do is pay for advertising and you get like a ton of people that are interested, but you're not ready to deliver on that, because then you're going to get really negative reviews. And then three, if you want to grow your business and scale it to that next level, then paid advertising, advertised content is great. It is the way to go because it's going to get you there much faster. In fact, I was listening to a mastermind of really smart people, maybe including Matt and Scott, and we were talking about some platforms that are really great right now, including YouTube video bumper ads where they can't skip the ads. So you have that captive audience. If you go back in time to when you actually did print, if we're borrowing from Matt's story about print advertising, and we had phone books back then, it was a much smaller pool of competition. Right now, it's so oversaturated online, you need a really smart strategy and a captive audience. So YouTube ads are great, especially because Facebook ads these days, they're changing the rules constantly. It's hard to find that split test to find the actual audience. And then I have some other ideas, like digital billboards, promoted pins on Pinterest, and some other really cool ninja tips that we can go over in more detail.
There's some seriously strong opinions on organic content over paid advertising. And I think there's also some feelings that people have about this, as you call it, pay to play, to if you want to get your message out there. So we hear about algorithms, we hear about delivery rates, and who wants to take the next salvo here?
I have a very strong opinion about paid advertising, which as an agency, we use all the time. However,
Ooh.
and this actually comes from a good friend of ours, and Holly and I have both been on her show, Yifat Cohen's show. She says, don't build your house on rented land, right? And the reason you don't want to build your house on rented land is if you're advertising on Facebook, there's two problems with advertising there. Number one is every time you want to get a customer, you have to give them money. And number two is that Facebook can stop using the tracking that you're using. They can stop with the targeting that you're using. They can disable your ad account. They can do any of these things at any time to you with no recourse for you whatsoever. Now, if you are making organic content, and even if someone like Google says, well, we're not going to index your content anymore, I mean, yeah, that's bad, but people can still reach it on the internet. You can still send out your newsletters. They can still get there from social media links. They can still find you through Bing and DuckDuckGo and other search engines. So When you are making content, you own your site and you own your audience. No one can take that away from you. So I think that is a really big part of organic versus paid.
All right, Holly.
Yeah,
ahead
so
and,
I completely agree that you need to have a diversified portfolio, and I agree that there is a purpose and a place for organic content. But if you diversify how you're spending your advertising dollars across different various platforms, it is a great way to grow your business. And all of us as business owners know that there is that investment. And sometimes we can't scale by using our time because we're trying to go fast. And that means you need to scale by making an investment to reach those people so that they can find your materials. So the difference between organic and advertised is they both have value, but if you're trying to grow your business, it is necessary to have some advertising. That is just part of the game of being in business. It increases your numbers. It increases the people that can find you. It's like when I'm working with a new client that's brand new to business, they think just like the field of dreams, that if you build it, they will come. How are they going to find you? And so advertising, especially if you're newer in business or you're to that next level of scaling in business, is kind of a necessary investment. And I agree with what you said, with what Yifat said, that you have to diversify your portfolio. You're not reliant on just one strategy.
So, Matt, I love what Holly is saying here, because it sounds like if you have an audience, organic is great, but to find those people, maybe we need to pay. What do you have to say here?
I think if you need to find them immediately, then paid is an excellent tactic, because it takes time to generate content, get that content indexed by search engines, get links out and stuff to social media. Maybe you don't have any social media accounts with any followers, so it takes time to build up. Maybe you need time to build up your mailing list. All of those things take time. They take content. They take effort. And if you are already busy and you have more dollars than time, then advertising is a fantastic way to jumpstart that. Also, they have a built-in audience already. So places like Facebook, Google Ads, Pinterest, YouTube, even content platform advertising, like Taboola, there's LinkedIn ads, there's Twitter ads, there's Reddit ads. There's basically every platform you can imagine now has ads. Amazon has ads all over the place. They have a built-in audience that you can pull from with your advertising, but you do need to send them somewhere. And that somewhere you want to send them is to your content. So I think you have to have the content first and then put the paid advertising to kind of give it a boost.
Okay, Holly, Matt has just thrown out that it's a very complicated scene out there. And you mentioned there's pins, we've got Reddit, we've got the traditional Google, YouTube, and Facebook, Instagram. So things can get very complicated very fast. So where do we go?
Well, I mean, that's an excellent question. And so he just said, you have to have a place to point them to. So I agree, you need to have a website or something that you're selling them to with your product and service on there. Otherwise, it's kind of like the chicken or the egg. What comes first? If you don't have a place to send them to, like your sales page, you're not going to convert it. So what's the point of advertising? But if you have that, then of course it makes sense to pay for the advertising to get them there. So you can drive the numbers. And the best time to do paid advertising is if you're getting started and you're clear on your ideal client and you're ready to scale, then advertising makes sense, because like Matt just said, when you're paying for advertising, even free advertising, like putting an event on Eventbrite, there's more people in that audience. So you're essentially like borrowing from their list to get them onto your email list to grow that. And it's much faster if you're using this and borrowing it from other platforms. But again, it also makes sense to diversify. Now, when you're doing this is, again, if you know your client really well, you're ready to scale, and you're being really smart and diversifying where you're investing. So I would suggest doing something like the YouTube bumper ads, playing with digital promotional ads, playing around with promoted pins, Hulu ads, things like this, and look at your budget and just do a little bit here and there and split test where it's most effective for your ideal client and for your service or product that you're trying to scale up and get those numbers ramped up. But again, yeah, of course, you have to have a place to send them to, and that is the organic prospect of that. And if you don't have a website, then obviously, where are you sending them? Nowhere.
So, Holly, if you've worked with a client and you've helped them identify that ideal customer, then which platform would you point them to first?
That's going to be very specific to each client and depending on their product or service. So like for the example where we were discussing this other day in the real estate agency world, digital billboards can be really effective, or a YouTube ad on a channel that's talking about home improvements, or, doing DIY home projects, because people that are in the buying industry are going to look there. So it really depends on where your ideal client is hanging out. And the more deeply you know your ideal client, it makes more sense to spend dollars on that. I can't tell you how many times people are maybe 3 to 5 years in their business. And this is why I tell them not to invest in SEO, because they don't know who their niche is. So they're going to be spending tons of money on SEO, building something that's not really their ideal audience. So again, you have to know that. And the more deeply you know their fears and where they're hanging out, the more sense it makes to spend on advertising dollars.
So Matt, you mentioned about content and about creating the content, and that it costs time. But I would think that to generate really good content, you're going to need to have people who can create graphics, can write good copy. And in some cases, that may or may not be the business owner. So to create really good, really engaging content at that destination, wherever that is, what type of investment should people be willing to make?
That's going to depend on the business. So there's going to be a barrier or a bar that is, this is how good your content needs to be based on who your business is. So if you are a mom and pop shop or a one-person retail owner, you have a physical location, you own a restaurant, something like that, you are okay to take your phone and do this and record a video and put it on, Facebook or something for your content, or take it and turn it sideways and make a YouTube video. If you're Apple, that's not going to cut it, right? So the level that your business is at and the size of your organization is really going to make a difference to the quality that you should be putting into your video. I mean, once your business has a revenue over $1 million a year, then you should be creating a strategy around both photographs and video that you're creating that has a story behind it that can be used for organic content and for advertising. And that content needs to be slightly different. But for the small business owner, I think that the best place to start is by making short, kind of punchy video that shows the difference that you offer. What is your competitive advantage? And also getting your best customers to get on video and explain how you were able to help them solve their problem. And those two types of content will get you almost as much free advertising as you could ever want, because it gets shared, people like it, and it works.
So, Holly, many of the customers out there that Matt are talking about are going to be familiar with the platforms where they're placing that content, whether it's on a Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest page, and they're making these videos and placing them on a YouTube. So they're going to be familiar with that. What about these advertising platforms? Can a mom and pop, one-person show that's going to use their cell phone to make content, can they also create these ads? Or do we have to go to a advertising professional and maybe pay thousands of dollars in fees?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, Scott. So there are two options here, right? I would not recommend that really anybody play and dabble with Facebook advertising, for example, without having somebody that knows what they're doing, because the rules of the game change constantly. So depending on the complexity of advertising and making sure you're getting the biggest bang for your buck, Facebook ads is not a place I would play unless you're hiring somebody that's a Facebook ads expert. Just based on personal experience and working with clients, doesn't make sense. Oh, okay. Hey.
Maybe there's a person in the room that could help with that. All right.
Correct. So he's an example of somebody you could work with on that. Now, for other things, I think the YouTube space is a lot more friendly, a lot easier to work with. So that's a great place to start playing, even if you're a mom pop shop or a solopreneur. Even the digital billboard space is a lot more friendly, a lot less complex in terms of getting there, and also not having to spend a tremendous amount of money. But Facebook advertising, even like LinkedIn advertising to some degree, there's some complexities there where you might want to work with somebody who's more of an expert like Matt, or people that I partner with as well. So that's my recommendation there.
Okay. So what else? We'll give you another moment and then we'll go back to Matt. What else?
Oh, is my closing statement or?
We're getting close to that closing statement.
All right. So some of the other things, again, I really think that the most important thing, regardless of how you're doing your marketing or how you're placing your content, because these are kind of forced in this show to choose one side. The thing that's really important and essential is that you're doing what's right for your business. And that means really deeply knowing your ideal client, understanding the things that are keeping them up at night, understanding how you're solving that problem, and then either putting organic or paid advertising to reach them and to show them how you can help them. That is the most important thing to me. And then figuring out which platform those people are on and getting the content out there. And again, if you have the dollars to spend on it, you're ready to scale, advertising is a great way to do that. If you're not there yet, you can do that by investing time, like Matt is saying, with organic content. But again, if you're trying to scale to that next level, I do think that paid advertising is the route to go. And you have to have a diversified portfolio, because if one shuts down, you don't want that ruining your entire business.
So Matt, I've heard it said that if you're in business and you don't advertise, it's like flirting in the dark. Only you knows what's going on. So what do you have to say? What do you have to say for that?
So the brilliant thing about advertising is that anyone with a credit card and $5 has access to the most advanced advertising systems ever designed by mankind. The downside is that anybody with a credit card who can click and type on a computer can immediately lose thousands of dollars if they don't know which buttons to hit, right? You can melt a credit card with pay-per-click ads or with Facebook ads in minutes. Someone typed in 2400 instead of 24.00 on a pay-per-click account that they were managing, and then they called us because they spent $5,000 in 2 days on pay-per-click ads when they were trying to spend 50. It's a problem because every platform is different, and each of them have what they say is simple, and then more complexity is layered on top of it. But the complexity is where you make the money. Knowing how to use those advanced features is how you get the extra margin that you need to compete in advertising. In which case, you generally have a fairly big learning curve, or you need to hire an agency, which I'm a huge fan of since I run an agency. There is also some technical complexity around trying to do things like rank, search engine, optimized content. When that happens all the time is people check a box in WordPress that says, don't index my content. And that just immediately means you don't get ranked anywhere. I mean, this is a checkbox that you can click accidentally, or could be installed by your provider automatically checked, that if you don't uncheck it, you never rank on your website. So there's technical complexity on both sides. But on the plus side, if you don't do it right on content side, you don't burn $5,000 in 2 days.
So we're going to wind down here, but I'm going to throw out one curveball, and I want to see, I want to get a response from each of you. And I realize that there are different industries out there that people are going to have some different numbers to work with. But in general, as a baseline, what percentage of top line revenue would you recommend that a business puts into its marketing for strategy, for content creation, for paid advertising, for anything that's marketing related? Is there a percentage or a ballpark that businesses should be thinking about?
I think when you're getting started, the percentage is higher because nobody knows you. And so a lot of your work is around marketing because you don't have those clients yet. So you're not really producing against the service or the product that you have out there. So I'd say a higher level of dollars or time spent, however you're doing that, is going to be around marketing as you get started. Now, as you level out in business, I think that the percentage comes in. And then as you scale to a new product release, obviously you're going to invest more in marketing for that product or service release. And as you decide to scale it, you start to increase the percentage of investment. But I can't really say a specific percentage or range because it varies so dramatically based on the phase of business that they're in as a business owner, the size of their team, the product or service that they're selling, how easily connected they are to their audience, what their list looks like. All of these things really factor into that. So it's a really case by case basis.
Very good. Very good. Matt, what's rolling in your brain there?
If you have a business that makes at least 50% margin, then you should be spending between 8 and 14% of your revenue on advertising and marketing. If your business margin is higher, then you can spend more to acquire a customer, then you should be spending a larger percentage. And one problem that businesses make with calculating how to spend on marketing, they calculate based on the one and only first sale, right? And not on the lifetime value of the client. So a good example is if you have a subscription service and it costs $50 a month, and if it costs you $55 to get a customer, some people think, oh, I just lost $5. But if your average customer stays with you for 6 months, and it cost you $55 to acquire a customer, you actually made $245.
Well, that's very good. I give Matt high marks here for very quick math. So I'm just saying that was very well done. And I have heard the Small Business Administration saying that every business should spend a minimum of 7% of their top line revenue. So we're right in that mark. Retail businesses could be 20 to 30% even, depending on what their margins are, as you say. What my experience is that most businesses way underspend on that percentage. They're well under the 7%. And so they need to really look at their strategy and their finances and find out how they're going to do this. So let's wind down. Let's come down to our closing remarks. So Holly, let's let you wind up the close, and then we'll go to Matt, and then.
Well, thank you guys for that layup on the percentages for that. So if you're in this place where you're feeling fearful of investing in your business, like you just heard from Scott, the SBA says at least 7% investment in marketing. And that'd be a combination of organic and paid advertising. So the layup today is you should be investing at least that percentage so that you're gaining more share and building your list and not afraid of being of value and service to the clients you're serving. And so many of the clients that I work with are afraid to make that investment because they're afraid of being seen. Well, guess what? Marketing is all about being seen. So let's put our dollars and our value where our talk is, and let's walk that talk and step into that today.
All right. Very good. Matt, wind it up.
I'm going to say going with the path of least resistance, which is telling your story through content, whether that's written content, photos, or video. I think all of those things need to be part of your content strategy. And once you've got that, as Holly said, you know who your customer avatar is, you know who your perfect customer is, you know how to speak to them, you know how to explain your value proposition, then you should move on to advertising. But I think content, in this case, organic content is king, as you say.
All right. Well, with that, we'll have the final bell and send both of you back to your own corners and render the decision. So today we really were looking at the difference between organic content, which can be created by those small business owners by just using your phone, creating some videos, very simple content that you can create depending on the scale of your business, and then maybe outsourcing and going large scale. Goals for everybody. With the paid advertising, the platforms can be complicated. And based on some of the horror stories that Matt shared, be very cautious about jumping into those platforms yourself without some education. And so maybe you want to look to a professional, find someone that's specializing in the platform that is going to reach your audience. And if you'd like to know, I might know a guy. So reach out to me. I can make some introductions. But what we also found out about that organic content was it does take time. And it's going to take time to build your audience, take time to make your voice. And so today's judgment is for Holly, Mean Gene Jackson. We're going to go with paid advertising. People don't have time to wait. I say businesses are underspending on their marketing budget. They're just a little bit squeamish about it because it's something that they probably don't understand, which once again says you need to hire a professional. You need to bring in a Holly Jean Jackson. You need to bring in a Matt Rouse. You can even bring in a motivational listener. Tune in every week to the Business Builders Throwdown. And the most entertaining way to learn about the hottest topics to promote your business, to sell your products, and to make money with Holly Jean Jackson and Matt Rouse and myself.
All right, see you, everybody. The dream team.
In fact, I was listening to a mastermind of really smart people, maybe including Matt and Scott,